At 65, Ricky Gervais is often the subject of viral headlines that frame his personal life in dramatic or emotional terms such as finally admits or only love of his life. But the reality behind his life story is far more grounded and far less sensational than these narratives suggest, because Gervais is a British comedian, writer, actor, and producer best known for creating groundbreaking television series such as The Office, Extras, and Afterlife, as well as for his stand-up comedy and hosting of major award shows like the Golden Globes, where his sharp humor, sarcasm, and willingness to challenge celebrity culture have made him both widely admired and sometimes controversial. And while online stories often attempt to turn his private life into dramatic revelations, the truth is that Gervais has long been in a committed, stable, and publicly acknowledged relationship with his partner Jane Fallon, with whom he has shared his life for decades, and the idea that he has recently admitted some hidden romantic truth is not supported by any verified interview or credible statement, but instead reflects the common internet trend of reshaping long-known facts into emotional clickbait narratives. And in reality, Gervais has frequently spoken in interviews over the years about his relationship, openly explaining that he and Fallon chose not to marry and not to have children, not because of secrecy or hidden drama but because of personal preference and shared values, which they have maintained consistently throughout their adult lives. And this long-term partnership is widely recognized as one of the most stable aspects of his personal world, standing in contrast to the often chaotic relationships portrayed in celebrity gossip culture. And while headlines may suggest a sudden emotional confession, Gervais himself has always been relatively transparent about his private life in a calm and understated way, preferring humor and honesty over dramatic storytelling, which is also reflected in his creative work, particularly in Afterlife, where themes of grief, love, companionship, and emotional resilience are explored in a deeply human but realistic manner rather than in sensational or exaggerated terms. And this blending of comedy and emotional reflection often leads audiences to project aspects of his on-screen characters onto his real life, even though Gervais has repeatedly emphasized the difference between fiction and his own experiences. And throughout his career, he has built a reputation for challenging media narratives, often criticizing the entertainment industry for its tendency to exaggerate, distort, or simplify personal stories for mass consumption, which makes the viral framing of his private life especially ironic given his long-standing commentary on exactly that kind of media behavior. And in terms of his broader career, Gervais transitioned from working in radio to becoming one of the most influential figures in modern British comedy, with The Office revolutionizing the mockumentary format and influencing television worldwide, followed by Extras, which further showcased his ability to blend awkward humor with emotional depth, and later Afterlife, which marked a shift toward more reflective storytelling centered on loss and meaning, showing a different side of his creative voice while still maintaining his signature comedic tone. And across all of these projects, themes of human connection, imperfection, and emotional honesty remain central, which also reflects how he approaches real-life relationships in a more grounded and less sensational way than headlines often suggest. And despite being a globally recognized public figure, he has maintained a relatively private personal life, choosing not to engage heavily in public displays of romance or dramatic personal disclosures, and instead focusing on work, writing, and occasional public appearances where he continues to use humor as a tool to discuss serious topics. And ultimately, the idea that Ricky Gervais has recently revealed some hidden emotional truth about the only love of his life is not supported by reality but is instead an example of how celebrity narratives are frequently reshaped into emotional hooks for online audiences, while the actual story is much simpler and more consistent, centered on a long-term partnership, a highly successful creative career, and a public persona built on honesty, satire, and a consistent rejection of unnecessary sensationalism in both media and personal storytelling.